Okay, so welcome back. If you're coming back, and welcome if it's your first time. This next one is going to be sort of like, it's almost like a situation that I hardly like to go into because it concerns third parties. And somebody has been made to be like a third party even without their knowledge. They don't know that they are being treated as a third party. And it is by somebody whom they used to know, but they were not intimately connecting with. But they ended up walking away from each other from the past. But this other party who is tied to or stuck with somebody else and has met this other one they walked away from, be like a third party, he's still continuing with the soul tie connection even when they are apart from each other. And it's not like they have connected with each other in any intimate way. They haven't. They were just good with each other, like good friends, once upon a time. But then probably after they walked away from each other, the masculine ended up realizing that he had made a mistake. And so he can't keep the feminine out of his thoughts. And he still holds on to that tie. Now, when we come across people, when we connect with people, either our families, our friends, our colleagues in work, soul ties end up being made among people. And this is just what happened to these three people. Two people who know about the other one, and one person who doesn't know anything about the other two. But it's ended up being like a soul tie connection. So these people, the masculine is siphoning energy from the feminine, whom he had walked away from without her knowledge. And the reason why he's able to do this is because they are still having their soul tie connected to each other. And the reason is because the person he walked away from still holds him dear to herself. She has no grudges against him. She has not totally cut him off from her energy. And that's why he has access to her energy. And because he has access to her energy, he's misusing this kind of a connection, because he's siphoning energy from her and giving that energy to the other party whom he is stuck with. And the other party he's stuck with is not really giving him equally in a balanced way, just like how he is giving to her. And the cycle keeps going on and on. He takes from the other one, he gives to the other one. And it's like it's either he's stuck or he's being manipulated to stay in that relationship, which is ending up being like a toxic kind of a relationship. But at the same time, he cannot break through altogether from the other connection energetically from which he had walked away from, and he's still holding on to those ties. So when we are in such kind of a situation, we should know, we should be aware of and be mindful of that there is something called soul ties, and we need to break these these toxic kind of soul ties, because sometimes we think we have walked away from somebody and we have totally forgotten about them and all that, and yet because of the soul tie which we did not break, we are still connected energetically towards them, and this affects our other relationships which we are going to go about with later on in our lives. Soul ties is a concept often discussed in spiritual and psychological contexts. It generally refers, I'm reading by the way, it generally refers to a deep, often invisible connection between individuals, which can be emotional, spiritual, or relational. And here's a brief overview of how it's understood in various contexts. Number one, spiritual context. In the spiritual context, in many spiritual or religious traditions, soul ties are believed to be deep spiritual connections that form between people, often through significant or intimate interactions. These ties can be positive, like the bond between close friends or partners, or negative, like unhealthy attachments that are hard to break. 2. Psychological context. In psychology, soul ties might be understood as strong emotional bonds that can significantly influence our thoughts, behaviors, and mental health. For instance, a deep, impactful relationship can leave lasting emotional imprints, affecting how we relate to others or process emotions. And 3, interpersonal relationships. In everyday terms, soul ties are sometimes used to describe the feeling of a strong, sometimes inexplicable connection with another person. This can happen in romantic relationships, friendships, or even in family dynamics. Addressing or understanding soul ties can involve reflecting on how these connections impact your life, seeking personal growth, or even working with a therapist or counselor if these ties are causing distress. So there are signs, at least 6 signs, to show that you have found a soul tie. And the following are the signs that you may have found a positive soul tie connection, because there are positive soul ties and there are negative soul ties. So if you have a soul tie that is positive, you will end up feeling energized or inspired after spending time with the other person. I mean, how do you feel after spending time with the other person? Do you feel rejuvenated and inspired, or do you find yourself feeling drained or exhausted? A positive soul tie connection should leave you feeling energized and creative. And the next one is you will be having a strong feeling of comfort and security in the other person's presence. Do you feel safe with the other person? Do you trust them, and do you inspire confidence in you? Do they inspire confidence in you? Healthy soul ties should create a sense of safety and trust between two people. And then you should be able to to be in a position where you are being able to express yourself openly without fear of judgment or criticism? Are you comfortable being authentic and vulnerable with the other person? A healthy soul tie connection should provide an atmosphere where both parties can express themselves openly without fear of judgment or criticism. And the next one should be, you should have mutual respect and admiration for each other. Do you admire the other person? Do they show respect for you? Healthy soul ties are built on mutual respect and admiration between two people. And there should be a feeling of unconditional love and acceptance. Do you feel accepted by the other person without condition? A positive soul tie connection should provide a sense of unconditional love and acceptance from both sides. And you should be having a deep level of understanding and empathy for the other person. Do you feel like the other person truly understands and empathizes with you? A positive soul tie connection should be one where both parties can offer each other support, love, and understanding. And these are the positive signs that are showing if you have a positive soul tie connection. And if you happen to have a negative soul tie connection, you will start feeling anxious when away from the other person for too long. It's like you're becoming codependent, becoming overly dependent on the other person for emotional support. And you will start having difficulty making decisions without the other person's input. And this is also another sign of codependency. And then you will start feeling jealous or possessive of the other person when they are around or when they are not around. You'll start struggling to define your identity without them. You will feel like you don't know yourself if they are not around. And you will start feeling drained or exhausted after interacting with them. And that's because if it's a toxic kind of an interaction, that is just what happens. The other person becomes an energy vampire. And you start experiencing a sense of emptiness when away from them. And this is what causes the anxiousness later on. So when you're having an unhealthy kind of a relationship, it can be dangerous and destructive. And people who are an unhealthy soul tie relationship may experience intense jealousy, possessiveness, and codependency. And they become overly attached to the other person and struggle to define their identity without them. And when you are in such kind of a thing, it just means that you need to break the soul tie. And breaking soul ties is a process often sought for emotional or spiritual healing. A soul tie is a deep, often spiritual connection between individuals that can be positive or negative. If you're looking to break a soul tie, here are some steps that might help you. 1. Self-reflection. Understand why you want to break the soul tie and what it means to you. Reflect on the nature of the connection and how it affects your life. 2. Forgiveness. Forgiving both yourself and the other person can be crucial. Holding on to anger or resentment can keep the tie strong. That's why sometimes when you feel like you hate somebody so much, but they never get out of your mind. 3. Set boundaries. Create physical and emotional distance from the person or situation. This might mean reducing contact or avoiding triggers that remind you of them. 4. Emotional release. Engage in activities that help you process and release your emotions. This could include journaling, therapy, or talking to a trusted friend. 5. Meditation or prayer. This is very important. Many find that spiritual practices help in breaking ties. Meditation or prayer focusing on release and healing can be beneficial, because if you are to heal from anything, you need to release it out. 6. Affirmations. Use positive affirmations to reinforce your intention to break the soul tie and focus on your own well-being, because intentions are very important. If you do something without having a conscious kind of an intention, it might not work. So have positive intentions towards when you are doing anything. Be careful of the kind of intentions you're using when you are affirming about anything. 7. Professional help. If you find it challenging to break the tie on your own, seeking guidance from a counselor, therapist, or spiritual advisor might be helpful. 8. Self-care. Prioritize your own mental, emotional, and physical health. Engaging in activities that make you feel good and build self-esteem can support the process of breaking the tie. Each person's experience is unique, so it might take time to fully sever the connection. Be patient and gentle with yourself throughout the process. And these are the points I wanted to point out about this soul tie breaking, because of this kind of third-party situations, what are they called, love triangles. And sometimes you might be put in a position where you are the third party and you don't even know. And that is why breaking the soul ties is very important for you to be able to go on in your lives, because when you haven't broken that kind of a soul tie, you just might not move on with any kind of relationship, and whatever relationship you enter will just backfire, because it will just affect it, because you still have a soul tie tied to you behind you. Unless you cut it, you cannot move forward. And so we should be mindful as well as to whom we are interacting with, because we interact with people, sometimes we just take them as our friend, just as a friend, and yet they have other intentions towards us and we don't know. So I hope this helps somebody, and you're able to move forward in a more positive way after applying these tactics and strategies. I hope this is helpful. So have a great day and take care, and God bless. Till next time.